There's something sitting quietly in your kitchen right now. Not a crystal, not a sacred object, just an onion. Dry-skinned, ordinary, maybe forgotten at the bottom of a basket. But in the language of energy, it might be the most powerful thing in your home. You see, there's a weight we carry that we don't always notice. It shows up as fatigue that sleep can't fix, as tension in the air that even your favorite music can't shake, as a strange heaviness in the mornings when your body wakes up, but your heart feels like it stayed behind in the dark. Feng Shui teaches that energy, or Kai, isn't just about where you place your furniture. It's the atmosphere you live in, the silent pulse of your home. And sometimes, without realizing it, our homes become magnets for what others leave behind: jealousy, resentment, bitterness, even silent hostility. Not curses in the dramatic sense, but small, sticky shadows that settle into the corners of your space and into you. Today, I want to show you something different, a way to clear what words can't fix. A quiet ritual, simple, safe, and older than memory, that uses a single onion to absorb what you no longer need to carry. No drama, no superstition, just one cut. And as strange as it may sound, when done with care, that one act can help shift the energy in your home and in you, because sometimes the real problem isn't what's wrong with your life, it's what's still lingering in the air around it. And it's time we cleared that air for good. Part 1. The invisible burden. You can feel it before you see it. That quiet resistance in your day, the invisible weight that makes simple things feel heavier than they should. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep and still feel like you haven't rested. You sit at your desk, but your thoughts scatter. You walk into a room and the air feels just off, not frightening, just dull, flat, lifeless, like something is hovering in the background that doesn't belong to you but still lingers. We often blame stress, aging, the news cycle, the chaos of everyday life. And yes, those things matter. But what if I told you there's something else, something softer but far more persistent, an energy that doesn't scream but slowly builds? Something that seeps in through unspoken words, unresolved tension, or emotional residue from others. Feng Shui doesn't ask you to believe in ghosts or curses. It simply asks you to notice what you already feel, the difference between a space that welcomes you and a space that drains you. In the practice of energy flow, this heaviness is known as yin kai. It's not evil, it's not dark magic, it's just dense, stagnant, emotional weight. The kind that settles into carpets, behind furniture, inside walls. The kind that doesn't need a name to have an effect. Maybe it came from a fight that never got resolved. Maybe from someone who visited your home with resentment in their smile. Maybe from your own moments of heartbreak, grief, or anger that you never had the time or space to fully release. Here's where it gets personal. You don't need to feel energy to be affected by it. It's like humidity, you don't see it, but your body knows when it's there. Your home, your furniture, your clothes, they absorb energy just as easily as they absorb scent. Think of the last time someone walked into your home and the mood shifted before they even said a word. That's not imagination, that's presence, that's energetic residue. The invisible burden doesn't always knock on the front door. Sometimes it's already inside, and that's why it's so easy to ignore, because we've been trained to overlook anything that isn't visible, measurable, or rational. But your body is wiser than your logic. Your body notices the corner you always avoid, the room that never quite feels warm, the mirror you stopped using but can't explain why. These aren't superstitions, these are signals, and you've already felt them, you just haven't had the language to name them. Energy doesn't stay neutral, it either lifts or weighs, and just like clutter builds in the closet, stagnant energy builds in your space. Over time, it changes how you move, how you rest, how you think. You might not realize it, but your mood shifts slightly every time you walk through that same hallway. You may not know why you procrastinate more in one corner of the house, or why your sleep feels lighter or heavier, depending on which direction your bed faces. But the effects are cumulative. Just like emotional fatigue, energetic burden creeps in slowly, and then stays. Some people light sage or incense, others open windows and play music. These rituals help, but they often scratch the surface. Because clearing energy isn't just about scent, it's about intention, movement, and memory. It's about creating a moment that says, I see what's here and I choose to release it. That's where today's ritual comes in. It doesn't involve prayer, expensive tools, or belief in anything mystical. It only asks for one onion, one knife, and your quiet attention. The onion is not a spell, it's a symbol, a tool grounded in centuries of earth-based wisdom. Its layers mirror your own. And when you cut through it with intention, something shifts, not in the air but in you, because you're not just cutting an onion, you're cutting through what's been clinging to you silently. And sometimes, that's all it takes to create space for something lighter to enter. What I want you to know, truly know, is that this invisible burden isn't your fault. It's simply part of life, but you don't have to carry it forever. You don't have to accept exhaustion as a personality trait. You don't have to normalize feeling stuck. Your home, like your body, needs to breathe. And if you felt like your space has been holding something heavy, maybe it's time to help it let go. Because when the weight in the room lifts, so does the weight in your chest. And that's not magic. That's just energy doing what it's meant to do, move. Part 2, the ritual tool, the onion. It's easy to overlook something so ordinary. You've probably sliced hundreds of onions in your life without thinking twice. Chopped them for soup, grilled them with steak, tossed them into salads. But not once did you think of them as a tool for healing. That's the beauty and mystery of this ritual. The most powerful cleansing doesn't come from rare crystals or exotic oils. It comes from something sitting quietly in your pantry, waiting to be seen for what it really is. In Feng Shui, the onion belongs to the wood element. Wood governs growth, movement, and the relationship between the seen and unseen. An onion, layered and rooted, lives right at the edge of the earth. It doesn't just sit on the surface, it holds memory, moisture, scent. It absorbs what most things repel. This isn't theory, it's function. The same way baking soda absorbs odor, the onion absorbs energy. And more specifically, stagnant energy, what we call yin-kai. What makes the onion special isn't its appearance, it's what happens when you cut into it. When you slice an onion, something is released, chemical, yes, but also symbolic. In Feng Shui, every slice is a movement, a break in energy, a reset. That moment when your eyes water, when you feel a sting that has nothing to do with sadness, is part of the ritual. Your body reacts not because you're in danger, but because something deep is being stirred. You're not just cutting food, you're cutting into a silence that has stayed too long. Think about what happens in a kitchen: laughter, arguments, confessions, loneliness. The kitchen is where life shows up raw, and the onion, humble, present, has always been there. Sliced during moments of joy, sliced during nights of quiet grief. It has witnessed the entire emotional spectrum of a household. And maybe that's why, when used intentionally, it becomes more than an ingredient. It becomes a mirror. Now imagine this: you sit in a quiet space. A candle is lit, you hold a clean, unused knife, and before you is one whole onion, not peeled, not washed, just held as it is. You look at it not as food, but as a vessel. A living thing that grew in the dark, now offering itself to absorb what you can no longer hold. That moment, simple, still, is when the ritual begins. No prayers, no chants, just breathe, just presence. When you cut into the onion, you slice it into 4 parts, each one representing a layer of your energy, your body, your mind, your home, and your future. As the blade moves through, you picture all the stuck, silent residue being drawn into those layers, not to harm the onion, but to let it carry what you're finally ready to let go of. You place 2 pieces in the home, in corners associated with vitality and abundance. The other 2 you bury outside, not as trash, as offering, because Earth doesn't judge what we give her. She just knows how to return things to balance. This ritual isn't about power, it's about release. It's not about revenge either, it's about return. The onion doesn't destroy energy, it absorbs it and carries it away. And in that, it teaches us something: that we don't have to push or punish what has hurt us. We can simply give it back, quietly, gently, without apology. There's something deeply American about finding meaning in something practical. We value what works. We don't always need mysticism, we need results. And this ritual honors that, because it doesn't ask you to believe in anything beyond your own experience. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to be spiritual. You just have to be tired of holding what no longer feels right. If you've ever walked into a room and felt tension you couldn't explain, if you've ever looked at your reflection and wondered why joy felt distant, if you've ever cleaned every surface and still felt something was off, this ritual is for you. Not because it fixes everything, but because it gives you a place to start. The onion doesn't solve your problems, it doesn't erase pain. What it does, what it's always done, is give shape to the invisible. It draws things out of the air, out of your body, out of the places that don't have words yet. And in that act, you are not just watching energy shift, you are participating in your own return. Return to lightness, return to breathe, return to a home that feels like yours again. Because in the end, this isn't a ritual about an onion. It's about recognizing when something no longer serves you and finding the simplest, kindest way to let it go. Part 3, story insert Oprah Winfrey's quiet cleansing. We tend to think that only those of us living ordinary lives, juggling work, bills, and quiet heartbreaks, carry invisible burdens. But even those we admire, whose names light up our screens, feel it too. Behind the camera, beneath the success, there is still energy to clear, pain to process, and silence that grows too heavy to ignore. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most recognizable voices of our time, once shared something unexpected. During the peak of her talk show, when millions tuned in daily and the world saw only grace and power, she began feeling something she couldn't name. Not burnout, not sadness, just a heaviness, a sense that her home, though beautiful, wasn't restoring her the way it used to. She'd returned from filming episodes filled with stories of grief, abuse, and trauma, carrying not just the weight of her own emotions, but the emotional residue of every guest who sat across from her. Oprah didn't call in a designer or a life coach, she called her spiritual advisor, and instead of rearranging furniture or burning incense, the suggestion was simple: cut an onion and place the pieces in the corners of your home overnight. No mysticism, no ritual robes, just a clean surface, a knife, and one humble onion. She was skeptical, but she did it. That night, as the sharp scent of the onion filled her bedroom, she didn't feel power, she felt release. Something old began to lift, something invisible but real. In the morning, she didn't wake up changed, she just felt lighter, calmer, as if her house had exhaled. What's striking about her story isn't the ritual, it's the humility. That someone with the resources to do anything chose instead to do something so quiet, so grounded, so ancient. A practice her grandmother once whispered about. A ritual older than belief, rooted not in wealth or status, but in the simplicity of letting energy go. This is the kind of wisdom we forget in a world that demands bigger, louder, faster. But Oprah's story reminds us healing doesn't always come through noise or control. Sometimes it comes through stillness, through allowing, through choosing to cut an onion, place it with care, and let the rest unfold. Because energy doesn't care who you are. It just responds to how willing you are to release what no longer belongs. Part 4, ritual step by step. There's something sacred about doing things with your own hands, not rushing, not multitasking, just choosing, preparing, and moving with intention. That's what makes this ritual powerful. It's not the onion, it's the presence you bring to it. In a world that tells us to buy solutions or wait for someone else to fix things, this ritual reminds you still have the ability to clear your own space, to reset your own energy, to start again quietly, gently, powerfully. Start with the space, not your entire house, just a single room, the one where you feel it most, that heaviness, that stagnation, that something's not right. Maybe it's your bedroom where sleep never really soothes. Maybe it's your kitchen where the air feels thick no matter how many times you clean. Wherever it is, that's your place to begin. Clear the surface. You don't need incense, chants, or spiritual background music. You need stillness. Turn off distractions. Let quiet settle into the room like dust that finally stops moving. If it helps, open a window slightly. Let the air shift, that subtle breeze, that's energy starting to move. Place one white or yellow onion on a wooden table, a ceramic plate, or even a paper towel, anything clean and intentional. The onion must be unpeeled, uncut, whole. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be honest. Because this isn't about presentation, it's about purpose. Now bring in your candle. White is ideal, symbol of clarity, light, yang energy. Light it and let its flame flicker softly nearby. The candle isn't for drama, it's for grounding, to remind you that light doesn't have to be loud to be real. Even the smallest flame changes how a room feels. Next, center yourself, sit upright. Place one hand over your heart. Close your eyes, not for meditation, but for clarity. Take 3 slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. As you inhale, imagine clean air moving through your chest. As you exhale, imagine gray mist leaving with your breath. Do it slowly but deliberately. You're not trying to force relaxation, you're just clearing space inside you the way you've cleared space around you. Now say this silently or whisper it if it feels natural. I release what no longer belongs to me. I return what does not serve me. I open space for peace. Say it once with sincerity, that's enough. The energy doesn't need repetition, it just needs truth. Pick up the knife, not your everyday kitchen one. Use a clean knife reserved for rituals, or at the very least, one you haven't used for food today. Hold the onion in place. Gently cut it from top to bottom. Then rotate and slice again to create 4 equal parts. Don't rush, every movement is part of the ritual. You're not just dividing a vegetable, you're creating separation between the old and the new, between burden and breath. As the onion opens, you might feel the sting in your eyes. Let it come, don't fight it. In Feng Shui, tears during this ritual are not a nuisance, they're a release. A sign that something blocked is finally moving, that you're no longer holding it in. Now take 2 of the onion quarters and place them in the southeast corner of your home or near a photo of yourself or your family. This is your wealth and life area. It doesn't matter if you believe in direction or symbols. What matters is that you're placing energy where it can support you. These pieces are there to absorb, protect, and open. The other 2 quarters, wrap them gently, take them outside and bury them in moist soil. It can be under a tree, in a garden, even a flower pot on a balcony. The earth doesn't care where you live, it simply receives. When you place the onion in the ground, say softly, "Take back what I no longer carry, thank you." Then come back inside. Sit by the candle again. Don't scroll your phone, don't move to the next thing, just sit, watch the flame. Let its warmth speak to the parts of you that still feel uncertain, and then quietly thank yourself for showing up, for trusting the stillness, for honoring your own energy. Let the candle burn for at least 15 minutes or until it naturally goes out. Don't rush to clean, don't rush to speak. Let your space breathe for a moment. Because this ritual is not about performance, it's about presence. And presence, your full attention in a quiet room, is one of the rarest gifts you can give your home, your heart, and your healing. Part 5. After effects to notice. Energy doesn't always announce its departure. Sometimes it simply slips out the back door, leaving behind a silence that feels cleaner, an air that feels softer. And if you're paying attention, not rushing to the next task, not distracting yourself with screens or errands, you'll notice. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in details so subtle you might miss them unless you're still enough to feel them. This is how the onion ritual works. Not like a lightning strike, but like the slow lifting of fog. And when the fog clears, here's what often begins to appear. First, the air in your home feels different. It's not fresher in the usual way, it's clearer. You take a deep breath and realize you haven't done that in days. The room doesn't smell like onions, it smells like space. Like the energy finally has room to move again. You walk past the same hallway, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel that tiny weight on your chest. That invisible tension in your shoulders loosens just enough to remind you how long you've been holding it. Then your sleep shifts. Maybe you fall asleep a little faster. Maybe you dream differently, not necessarily happier dreams, but calmer ones, less chasing, less falling, less wandering in darkness. And when you wake, something feels settled, not perfect, but lighter, as if your body finally understands that it's safe to rest, and your mind doesn't have to run all night to keep the shadows away. You may also notice little things beginning to flow. A message from someone you've been thinking about, a bill you worried over suddenly getting resolved, an idea for a project that felt stuck suddenly opening. Feng Shui isn't about magic, it's about movement. And when energy is no longer clogged, life begins to move again. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you've made space for it to do what it's always wanted to do, support you. Sometimes the signs are more sensory. A breeze finds its way into your home even when the windows are closed. A plant that had been struggling starts standing a little taller. The corners of your room feel warmer, as if the walls are exhaling. You may even hear something, a soft creak, a random pop, the gentle shift of air through a door frame. These are not just sounds, these are signals. The house adjusting to its own breath, like lungs that had been shallow and are now filling again. You'll feel it in people too. Someone in your home seems less agitated. A child sleeps more soundly. A conversation that always turned tense feels easier. No one can explain why, but you'll know, because when the environment shifts, the emotional climate shifts with it. The silence becomes softer, not colder. The energy between people feels smoother, not forced. And that, more than anything, is how you'll know the ritual worked. But here's the part most people miss. The biggest shift doesn't always happen around you. It happens inside you. Because when you cut that onion, when you buried part of it in the soil and sat quietly with the candle, what you were really doing, whether you realized it or not, was telling yourself, "I deserve peace." That message, whispered into your own nervous system, begins to change everything. So don't go looking for signs with a checklist. Don't turn it into another thing to measure. Just notice, be curious. Pay attention to what softens, to what quiets, to what finally moves without effort. And when you feel even the smallest shift, thank it. That gratitude keeps the energy flowing. It tells your space, "Yes, I felt that, thank you, more of this please." And if you don't notice anything immediately, that's okay too. Energy doesn't always move on your timeline. Sometimes it waits until you're ready, until your heart opens a little more, until the next breath is deep enough to carry it forward. Trust that the work you did mattered. That intention has already begun its ripple, whether you see the wave today or next week. Because real change is rarely loud. It doesn't crash in with fanfare. It arrives quietly, gently, like light through a curtain you forgot to open. And when it does, you'll know, not because your house looks different, but because it finally feels like home again. Part 6. Lessons from the Earth. The onion doesn't fight darkness. It doesn't resist. It doesn't try to understand or transform what clings to it. It simply absorbs, carries, and gives it back to the soil. And in that, there is a quiet, timeless lesson, one that we've forgotten in a world obsessed with fixing, controlling, and holding on. We live in a culture that tells us to be strong, to push through, to outthink and outwork our pain. But the earth doesn't do that. The earth receives. It doesn't question what you bury. It doesn't shame the tears that fall into it. It just takes what no longer serves you and breaks it down, slowly, silently, until one day what was once pain becomes nourishment again. That's not metaphor. That's the natural rhythm of things. Feng Shui isn't about rules or superstition. It's about rhythm. About understanding the quiet agreements between your body and the space around you. And when you take a moment to place something into the earth, like the onion quarters that held your heaviness, you're not performing a trick. You're returning what was never yours to carry. That moment of burial is more than disposal. It's a gesture of trust, a way of saying, I don't need to hold this anymore. There's a reason why ancient cultures across continents treated the earth not just as ground to walk on, but as a living presence. They knew what we're slowly remembering, that healing doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from giving something back, from surrendering what we've outgrown, from placing our grief, our confusion, our fatigue into something older and wiser than us. And what the earth teaches us, gently, always without judgment, is that nothing is too heavy to be held. No energy too stagnant to be cleared, no wound too old to be returned to wholeness. But we have to be willing to release it, to stop clinging, to trust the quiet. So if you've done this ritual, if you've sat with your breath, cut the onion, lit the candle, placed the pieces, then you've done more than cleanse your home. You've made a choice. You've stepped into a rhythm where letting go is strength, where silence is healing, where presence is enough. And the earth, as always, responds, not with fireworks, not with loud affirmations, but with something deeper, a shift in the current beneath your feet, a subtle restoration of balance, a sense that maybe, just maybe, the heaviness has somewhere else to go now. Let it go there. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive with grand gestures. It comes quietly, in the softness of a candle's glow, in the crisp break of an onion's skin, in the silence of a room that finally feels light again. Tonight, you didn't just watch a video, you allowed something to shift, in your space, in your breath, in the corners of your life that maybe no one else sees, but you do, and that matters. You've seen that energy isn't fantasy, it's the air between us, the weight we carry without knowing, the way a room can feel warm or cold, not because of temperature, but because of what lingers there. And you've learned that clearing that weight doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't need crystals or chants, just intention, just presence, just you and something as ordinary and extraordinary as an onion. You didn't cut it for drama, you cut it for peace. You didn't bury it to forget, you buried it to release. And in doing so, you've done what many never give themselves permission to do, acknowledge the invisible and let it go. So wherever you are right now, whether your space feels brand new or still in transition, I want to thank you. Thank you for showing up with an open heart. Thank you for trusting the stillness. And thank you for honoring your own energy enough to care for it. May your home breathe a little easier tonight. May your body rest more deeply. And may whatever has been weighing you down finally begin to lift. I'll see you again when the air calls for it. Until then, stay soft, stay grounded, and remember, even the quietest rituals can return you to yourself.